come up very often. If you can remember slope is rise over run, you're doing okay. In fact, I think slope is rise over run, and the other formula we used, slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I think that's on your formula sheet if you look carefully. So those were the kind of definitions. Then we have the formula, the bottom of the second page. This formula is on your formula sheet because it is a formula. It'll look like, I think it just looks like m y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, just like that on your formula sheet. So you don't have to memorize that. That's given to you. You'll use it so many times it'll just be one of these things that you just kind of remember. All right, I will go over the learning guide, and then Alex, I can go back and look at some function notation stuff. Learning guide to print and complete. All right, slope is what we've done today. So the first little bit is just using the sort of the definitions rise over run. And then you get to number 6, and it asks you to use the formula. So do your best there. 7 is using a graph to determine the slope, and then 8 is drawing the lines on the graph. So we've done stuff like that. So everything up to the end of page 2. So 2 pages. Question number 9 is things that we're going to cover next day. So everything up to the end of page 2, this graph. Hopefully that makes sense. And Alex wants some function notation stuff. I assume that's what you meant by that. Could you go over the notation from Unit 5? I have a little bit of empty space down here at the bottom, so I'll just do it right here. Let's make up a function. Let's go f of x is equal to x squared minus 5. So just a random question. All right, so maybe the question says, what is f of 3? So what's f of 3? Figure that out. And you're like, okay, well, the x was an x here, but now the x has been replaced by a 3. So what I'm going to do is take all of my x's in this, and I'm going to replace them with 3's. So 3 squared is 9 minus 5. I end up with 4. All right, so that's that. What if I said f of x is equal to 11? And I said, you know, what is x equal? What does x equal? That makes more sense. What does x equal? So what we're saying here is that this function f of x is equal to x squared minus 5. Now I'm saying, okay, everywhere there's an f of x, replace it with 11. So 11 is x squared minus 5. So you say, okay, I can solve for x. I'll add 5 to both sides. And I get 16 is equal to x squared. I want to get x by itself, so I take the square root of both sides and end up with 4 is equal to x. So those are the only sort of 2 types of questions you'll encounter. You're either going to have to put the x into the equation and solve for f of x, or you can think of it as y if you like. Or I can say, hey, this whole thing equals 11. What does x equal when everything equals 11? The other sort of thing that can happen is you can end up with a graph. Now this is going to be hard for me to just throw off the top of my head here. But you could have a line that looks like that. And maybe this is x is equal to 2, and this is negative 2, and this is 2 up here, and then you have like 4. And I could say, all right, what is f of 2? And you say, okay, well, x is 2. Remember this is normally where there's an x. So x is 2. Okay, where's x2? So you look at the graph, the line, you say, okay, x is 2 right here. What's the value of y right there? Well, y equals 0. So f of 2 is equal to 0. Or I could do something like, you have a point up here, and we could say f of x is equal to 2. And you'd say, okay, if f of x, or if you want to think about y is equal to 2, what does x equal? Well, if I find it, I go across, say, okay, y is 2, go across to my point, go down, and I say, oh, that's, 4. So f of x is equal to 2, x is equal to 4. These are kind of the backwards type things you can do with graphs. I know that wasn't the best example of using a graph for the function notation stuff, but hopefully that might clear up some questions. So f of x equals 11 doesn't matter. What x is, f will always be 11. Yeah, because this is function notation. So if I give you one input, if I say, what did I use here? I said the input is 3, then you're saying, okay, the output is, so this is my input, the 3, and you're saying the output is 4. You can only ever have one output for every given input. So if I say, input is 3, you're always going to say 4. So that's a good way to think about it. Will there be any questions on the Unit 5 exam about the names of the different ways of writing linear and nonlinear relationships? I don't think so. I don't want to say no because I haven't gone through the whole test bank. There's literally hundreds of questions, but I'm not sure I'm kind of understanding what you mean between the linear and nonlinear like relationships. When I'm thinking linear and nonlinear, I'm thinking something like y is equal to 2x minus 5, and that would be something that would be maybe linear, and then we could have something that like y is 2x squared plus 7. That's nonlinear. I'm not sure I really understand. Looks like you're typing. Maybe you just clarify that, and maybe I can help you a little bit further. The name for 2x4, for like domain and range. I don't think there'll be, again, I'm not sure if it asks for like, what I would think would be something like, define the domain in interval notation, or define the domain in set notation, and then there would be a bunch of answers in set notation, or a bunch of answers, using a number line. I don't imagine, I could be wrong, like I said, there's literally hundreds of questions in there. I don't think they would do something like, what's the domain in set notation, and then give you like 4 answers, one in, a linear form, and one in a set form, and one in a... The idea here is we're not testing the domain and range, your ability to like name the type of thing. If you can find the domain and range, that'd be good. So that being said, if you run into a question like that that's specifically testing the different types and your ability to identify the different types, you can just flag it and go from there. I don't have time to go through all of those again. We had interval, set, number line, word. I think there was one more. The ones that you'll see the most are interval notation and the using the greater than and less than signs. I forget what they called that even. So yeah, it's in the lesson in the course. So do your best to go back and just have a quick look at it. I don't think there's anything specifically asking about it. If there is, flag it and I can have a look at it from there. But that's it for me for now. Hopefully you can submit the learning guide today from Unit 5, write the test today or tomorrow. That's my hope. And we're going to be moving on to Unit 6, Lesson 2 tomorrow. Have a good afternoon. We'll see you guys tomorrow.